am Michael Whitehouse's Daily Michael video blog for Saturday, December 2nd, 2012. It's been a little while since I've done a video blog. It sounds like confession. Forgive me, Father, for it has been 6 months since my last video blog. Ironic that I picked that offhand, off-color joke there, because I think what I'd like to talk about as we go forward is more about God and religion and faith, not Catholicism. I haven't become a Catholic. And I'll keep my comments about Catholicism to myself. But back in around September, August, September, I joined a church called Walnut Hill Community Church. Now, the way I ended up joining this church was that the pastor, Craig Horn, came in and bought a car from me. I now know the entire story of this, so I'll fill you in on all the details, not just how the order in which I learned it. Craig went to service his Tiguan, and he was thinking about buying a Touareg, a used Touareg. Now, Touareg is a nice car. It's a big car, expensive, very capable, and so it's not really practical for most people to get a new Touareg. But he's looking for a used one. The used ones are very hard to find. But he's sitting in the waiting area, and he's thinking about getting a Touareg, and he hears God ask him, "Do you want a new car?" And he says, Yeah, I do." He says, "Well, go over and ask for one." So he goes over to service, and he tells them that he's interested in a new Touareg, and the service advisor leads him over to me and says, "This fellow's looking for a new Touareg," and I, at the time, was relatively new and had no idea that used Touaregs were hard to find. But I took down his name and number, and I said I'd give him a call if one came in. Well, sure enough, 2 weeks later, one came in. I called him, he bought it, was thrilled with it, and I happened to get a glimpse of his credit application. And on the credit application, it said, pastor, minister, something like that. Now, this was not a guy who you would naturally peg as a minister. He had tattoos. He had a fairly heavy South African accent. He talked about soccer a lot. He talked about sports a lot. He was just a goofy, funny guy. Not your typical minister. So I asked him about that. And I thought to myself, whatever church this guy runs, I want to at least visit. Because this sounds like my kind of church. So he was preaching on August 26th, because he preached on the 4th Sunday of the month. I went there to see him, and the rest, as I say, is history. I've been going there pretty regularly ever since. But one thing I discovered, it's a fairly liberal evangelical church, and by fairly liberal I mean not as far right of center as most, but they're still very biblically based. But the important thing is they don't really talk about dogma and the do's and the don'ts and the shalls and the shan'ts. They talk about Jesus and what Jesus believed in and what Jesus taught and who Jesus is, and they leave you to pretty much interpret the rest. Now, they're certainly happy to interpret it for you if you ask, but they're not going to tell you should be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that, because they have a very good attitude of understanding that they make mistakes too, and they're not perfect. And being at that church gave me an understanding of faith and brought me to faith in a new way. And I've been faithful for some time, but I started trusting God more in terms of the plan for me. And if you trust God, you don't really worry so much about what you're going to do and how things are going to turn out, because you just kind of do it. And you have faith they're going to turn out pretty well, and so far, it's December now, things have been going pretty well. And the more I believe and the more I just let things happen and, go with the flow. Now, this is not to say sit on my couch and wait for things to happen. It's, put in the work and do what needs to be done, but less a matter of worry about everything. I don't worry about where money's going to come from. I don't worry about how I'm going to eat. I don't worry about how I'm going to get things cleaned and fixed or anything else. I just have faith that God's got a plan, and He's not going to let me fall down so far that I can't fulfill it. It's a pretty good feeling. Tomorrow I'm going to talk a little bit about how to have faith when things are going wrong. I'm Michael Whitehouse. That'll do.